cool. Okay. Jonah, can you put the first slide up and then we'll go through? What is that? It's a postman. You could tell, couldn't you? I knew that you were all very clever. You could tell. Okay. What's the next slide? Thank you for that. What's the next slide? Yes, it's a postman, or because we're in 2023, a post person. I'm sure there's like some kind of, I don't know, information, or what do you call it, physical information delivery engineer or something stupid like that. But let's go with postman for now. I believe his name is Pat. You know, for those of you who remember the 90s, does anyone think that looks a little bit like Frosted Tips? Just a little bit. That's a little bit 95, isn't it? Okay, go on to the next one. Okay, how can we tell that this is a postman? There are several things. Next slide. Royal Mail logo, that's a big indicator. What's the next one? Post bag. Ooh, this is getting like, tell you what, game of Cluedo, eat your heart out, isn't it? We're learning stuff. Okay, what's the next one? Very awake in the AM. Okay, clearly they've been awake for a while. They're walking around kind of delivering things while the rest of us are going, oh God, I go to work or school or whatnot. And the last one is weathered knees, okay? Oddly enough, this is really interesting. This photo is from a gentleman who had been arrested by the police over wearing shorts. It was a very strange thing, but basically he was not wearing Royal Mail shorts, and it was like a massive overreaction, because if you're working for Royal Mail, you're working for the Crown, and he was not wearing Crown sanctions shorts. And so the police nabbed him. I know, right? Okay, what's the next slide? Okay, so we've learnt how to identify a postman or post person. How do we identify Christians? Now, if those of you who've been paying attention for the last week, we've been looking at particular kind of scripture. So next one, please. So Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit. So who can do the fruit of the Spirit without looking in their Bible? Jonah, go. No, you're looking at the slides. Cheat. Front row. Come on, Sophia, you know it. Happiness? You failed Bible quiz. Ooh. No, it's all right. I can't do it. Anyway, go on, Jonah, stick the slide up and then we can all there you go. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Okay? I think we've heard this quite a bit recently, that these are the fruit of the Spirit. Okay? A fruit is produced when you cultivate. Ooh, I like that word. Interesting word. Just go to the next slide, please, Jonah. Okay, cultivation. Here I've used Google, as you can see, and cut and paste. I am a tech genius. Prepare and use land for crops or gardening. Try to acquire or develop a quality or skill. Now, the fruit of the Spirit, you don't put fruit in the ground necessarily, do you? You put its seed or its, I'm not sure what all the different terms are, because a lot of the fruit, when we think of fruit, we think of like bananas and strawberries and things like that, but like bananas and strawberries aren't actually fruit, are they? But we kind of class them as, anyway. We're not actually talking about fruit, we're talking about produce. We put the thing or the seed in the ground, we cultivate, and then we grow. However, there was one person who had all of these in spades, all of these fruit of the Spirit. And the next slide will reveal it. It is Jesus. That's where they originated, right? None of this should be new to any of you. None of it should be new, okay? But I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, if Jesus was loving and kind and gentle and self-controlled, why did they kill him? Because this is what we knew Jesus for, wasn't it? We knew him to be somebody who was loving, somebody who was kind, somebody who showed gentleness, apart from when he made a whip out of horsehair and drove all the money lenders out of the temple. And what I learned from that is, if you want to be like Jesus, you must make yourself a whip. Because Jesus did it, and we all want to be like Christ. But if Jesus was all these things, why do they want to kill him? I know somebody who knows this. We're going to watch a little video from a little actor called Chris Pratt. This was in an interview while he was being, I think he was accosted on a red carpet, so like a premiere or stuff like that. Do you want to play the video, please?
I admire you so much for being open about your faith.
Oh, thank you.
Do you feel like I feel like you sometimes get to that? Do you feel like that's a hard thing?
Oh, yeah, I sure do, but that's nothing new. That's nothing new, If I was of this world, they would love me just like that. But as it is, I'm chosen out of this world. That's John 15, 18 through 20. It's the way it is. It ain't nothing new. 2,000 years ago, they hated him too.
Isn't that interesting? Right, so Chris Pratt, there's a few things that sometimes will be a little, okay, that's an interesting thing to do in public. However, he's been very, very vocal about his faith for quite a long time. And this is really, really cool, right, to see somebody. I mean, I always get impressed when actually Jesus gets into the mainstream, because there's so many people who don't want him in the mainstream, including the people who killed him, So is everyone here aware of who Chris Pratt is? Yeah? Yeah. So Chris Pratt, very famous actor, or he is, quite famous at the moment. What he was saying was that if you belong to the world and not Jesus, you'll look like that. So we looked at the postman, and we could tell he was a postman because of all the identifying markers, right? In the same way, the fruit of the Spirit are the identifying markers of a Christian. Yeah? If you look like a Christian, you are loving, you are kind, you are faithful, you are gentle. Now, sometimes we struggle with these things. That doesn't mean that we are perfect. No, I mean, I should have got the clip as well. There's a great clip of Chris Pratt at an awards ceremony where he's actually giving 9 rules for life. Has anyone seen the video, 9 Rules for Life by Chris Pratt? It's brilliant. Every other rule, he basically talks about Jesus, and he has this award, and it's like the MTV Awards, I think, and he's... with people being in the mainstream, there's only so many, that you can't really mention God, can't really mention Jesus, but there was no mistaking what he said. And he said, you realise that you are not perfect, you can't do it on your own, but there is somebody who paid for your life with blood, and that's grace. I'm like, I think he's talking about Jesus. Do you think he's talking about Jesus? I think he's talking about Jesus. Should we stick up the scripture that you've got there, please, Jonah? Okay, so this is the scripture that Chris Pratt was referring to. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. This is why the world hates you. Remember what I told you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. If they obeyed my teaching, they will obey yours also. Okay? Because it's all Jesus' teaching, isn't it? What I'm getting at is very, very simple. That you will produce fruit. You will either produce God fruit or world fruit. As we said, talked about on Sunday, either spiritual fruit or sarx fruit, which is like the Greek word for the flesh. Spirit or sarx. How do we till the soil of our heart? Because that's where the seed needs to go. See, it's Jesus is the sower, right? And that's what it is. How do we till our heart? Well, we need to cultivate the soil, which is all till, right? We need to change what's going on inside of us. What that is the term being born again. Okay? We need a new attitude, a new way of thinking, a new way of sorting that out. When we are born again, we realise that Jesus actually died to take our sin, the stuff that gets in the way of us and God. Sin prevents us from being that ultimate loving, that ultimate faithful. Now, yes, people can display these things, just like I can wear shorts, but it doesn't make me a postman, right? I can wear the Royal Mail thing, but then I will be arrested because I'm wearing something of the crown when I'm not supposed to, right? It depends whether I'm putting it on or letting it change from the inside out. It's either out in or in out. Say, Jesus died to take away your stuff that separates you from God. That's the sin, okay? Because that's the only way the Spirit can actually produce the fruit in you. You know, it's like that whole born again, the Spirit moving inside of you and letting Jesus live out through you. Yeah? When you believe in Jesus being Lord, he gives you his Spirit. And that Spirit is the ultimate power of love and kindness. It doesn't become a chore. You don't do love to be loved. It flows out of you. The whole idea of being a Christian is not that you do, it starts off with a big done, because Jesus already done it on the cross. He said it is finished. It means all the stuff is done. You just need to accept it and let him grow through you. Remember, Christianity and becoming a Christian is the beginning, not the end. You know, we all had a wonderful time at Easter where we watched a couple of our friends being dunked, right? Now, that wasn't the beginning of their journey with Jesus. That was another step. And there's loads more steps that we take. Yes, that was a very physical step, and there's not like, you know, there's no, I'm a better Christian because I've been baptized or whatever. And that's not what I'm saying. It's growth, because fruit grows. As you get closer to Jesus or allow him to move and be the Lord of your life, you love more, you are more kind, you are more self-controlled. As I say, there's no judgment in any of that because somebody is more self-controlled. It's just get closer to Jesus. So my question is, if you've not made that decision to follow Jesus and be born again and to look like that, because you'll either look like the world, and the world is full of selfishness and sin, and, well, basically that's it, selfishness. It's like the lies that the devil have said we're still struggling with them, you know? And those two lies were, I'm trying to remember what they are, did God really say that, and you can be like God? And that's all about us being encouraged to ourselves. The selfishness within us. So we can either go more selfish, more selfless, and we become utterly selfless when we accept that Jesus died on the cross, took away our sin, and all of that is dealt with. And then the fruit's produced.